AR. So first of all, what is AR?
Augmented reality? Augmented reality.
Augmented reality!
Yeah, I just said that a while ago.
Augmented reality. So it is augmented
I'm so smart.
reality. So what is augmented reality, though, is the bigger question. That is what the initial part of what does AR actually mean, and what is augmented reality? So this is Shijo Street in Kyoto, and if you imagine walking down Shijo Street and you hold up your device, and because of the GPS in your device, it knows where you are. It also knows your orientation, north, south, east, and west, and it puts up different things. I'm going pretty fast here. It puts up different things over the reality. So it's the reality augmented with some other information that enhances what you're seeing of the real thing. So Shijo Street is saying, okay, there's a bank, Kyoto Bank there, there's an ATM down there, and then it could also give you some more information about that if it's also in there about it's good food or poor service or whatever. So depending on how integrated this is with other social media and things like that, it can tell you more information about that. So augmented reality is taking what you have in real life, running it through some sort of a mediated device, and coming up with an overlay of additional information.
So you may have heard of virtual reality, which is completely simulated environment, augmented reality, and then we have the real world, and augmented or mixed reality is a whole spectrum in between those two.
Yeah.
Okay. So the definition, AR, is a live copy of you of physical real-world environment whose elements are augmented or supplemented by computer-generated sensory input, such as sound, video, graphics, and GPS information. That's the nice definition of what it is. And it's also called the eighth media. Some people call it this, medium. So we started off back in the 15th century, late 15th century with print, recordings, cinema, radio, television in the 1950s, the internet in the 90s, mobile technology in 2000, and now possibly augmented reality is an eighth medium of the future. And this really kind of just started to come into play within this decade.
Yeah, the jury's really still out on this one. Time-wise, we're kind of due for a new mass medium. And the argument is that augmented reality is a part of mobile technology, but recently we're seeing more of the wearables like the Google Glass and the things on our watches, and augmented reality is going to be a part of all that stuff. So the argument there is it's going to be a separate whole.
Okay, so the types of AR. And basically what we have here is the three different types of AR, and Eric can talk about this a little bit more too with the camera tracking. So it's all based on kind of your device, and as Eric said, it's part of mobile technology. So you're using your device and tracking the camera. You want to talk more about this?
Right. This is kind of my own concoction of how to divide up and think about the types of augmented reality. So augmented reality is using something from the physical world around you. You can segment that out of what type of information your phone is taking in to augment. So you can either take in the visual data from your camera. You can do that in many different ways. You can use markers, something like a QR code. You may have seen those barcodes, things like that. Without a marker, just tracking body movement and things like that. And active and passive scan means something that's the camera's always looking for something, or you're just going to press a button and maybe scan a picture, a freeze frame moment in time. And if you're not using your camera, you can use all the other motion sensors and GPS sensors that are on your phone to augment where you are and what you're doing. And then you can put those together to have some fun actually using the sensors in your phone and actually the visual data coming in at the same time to have some fun with that too. If anybody has any questions as we move along.
This is the example of camera tracking, the markers. So you have things that are designated markers, and you use your camera, and it identifies that thing that's been pre-programmed as a marker. So in this case, you have these things that exist in real life that are identified as markers, and then you hold your device over that, and it augments them by putting additional things over those. We're going to show you some examples of that, some real examples of that.
This is actually made by someone in Japan, one of the godfathers of AR, the first iteration about 10 years ago, using these QR codes and just trying to overlay 3D images on top of them. It's used a lot in engineering students, so you can actually see what parts look like and manipulate them in real time.
And this is probably one of the original or earliest uses of AR was the cockpit in the flight deck in an airplane, where the pilot's looking out over the real view, and it has lots of information that's put up in front of them, giving the altitude and the pitch of the plane and all those things. So that's more information laid up over the top of that. That's GPS and flight data. And then AR and tourism. There's lots of applications for this in tourism. And of course, tourism is a big part of international development. And what could be education as well. Educational tourism is becoming more popular as well. The navigation, GPS gaming, the using the camera to translate the written things that are there, and also tagging images and flyers and other printed material are some of the ways that AR can be used for tourism.
Yeah, AR can be, we're trying to look into the application of augmented reality in several different ways. Education and tourism is kind of connected to what we're doing with TEDx Kyoto and kind of connected with the theme of this event, with this international development. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the uses of augmented reality in tourism.
Just real briefly on that. Now, you guys get it? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Those different.
We'll go through these one by one.
Yeah.
So one of them is just like we saw before with the cockpit. So a lot of these applications now, they know where you are physically and they know which direction you're facing. And so you can take in data from the internet, from Wikipedia or Foursquare, anything that has GPS coordinates along with it. And it can tell you which, according to where you are, in what direction and how far away they are. So this is just outside my office. About a kilometer straight ahead is the Uchiyama Castle, and then off to the left there is 800 meters, that's the City Hall.
A recent example of this too is in the newly, I just saw this on the news a couple days ago, the newly renovated Himeji Castle, which is a World Heritage Site nearby here that if you have a chance, you should go there. They've added AR, tourism AR to that, where they have the different directions, the north, south, east, and west in kanji signs, and you hold your device up to that, and then it'll show you what that view would have been in of the city looking out from the castle historically, from the period when the castle was used, and then so you can look out over what the lord of the castle would have seen.
Yeah. Also, there's been some apps made recently for Fukushima, so that's a lot of devastated areas there. So the device knows where you are, and you can actually go there and view pictures of what it used to look like before the disaster. Using your GPS scanning, has anyone ever done geocaching?
A little bit.
A little bit?
And you can do GeoGuessr online.
Geo what now?
GeoGuessr?
Yes, sir.
She's nodding her head.
Figure where you are.
Okay. So yeah, they're like caches out in various places, usually in the wilderness somewhere. You go and you take an item, put an item, and basically it's flagged in an application that knows where that is GPS location. It's sort of like a gate. And mixing those two together, like I said before, with using the camera tracking and also your GPS data, so you know what language you're coming from, and you know what language you're in. So you can translate roughly letters. So this is an application called WordLens. It's still pretty good at translating some of the Western languages, but you still can't do Japanese, unfortunately. And the last one is print. This is what we're talking about mostly today. There are four main players in the AR enhanced print or AR augmented reality print realm. They all have their different niches. First one is LIAR. They're in the commercial print realm. They do a lot with newspapers and magazines. Ariel is an Indian company. Genayo is in the engineering realm, so they're using this technology in factories to help people with complicated machinery. So you point your device at an engine block, perhaps, and it'll tell you what part needs to go where, things like that. And ASEID is used mainly in education.
In education meaning?
There's an education meaning, I'm working with that in enhancing textbooks. In language learning, I'm developing a textbook where you would use this device to point at things in the textbook and hear dialogue, take quizzes.
Cool.
Link out to the web to additional resources.
You point your device at the target that's on the page, and maybe a video comes up. So rather than having to put in the DVD.
Oh, yeah.
So the things that you're able to do with the print enhancements, you can put images, video, audio, you can put in 3D models, which is pretty much the coolest. You can link out to anything on the web. You can link in social media, who's used this, who's linked to it, and you can put in this page out. So overlaying on top of the physical. just talk a little bit briefly about the design principles behind using AR. This is a page from a textbook I just mentioned that I'm developing with AR Enhanced. And it's sort of like print design and web design kind of mashed together in the same sense. You notice that there's some white space down on the bottom there. That's there on purpose because that's going to get filled up with buttons and things to press on. So, for example, there's some of the things to consider when you're doing that. So, when you're using AR, AR needs to take in some visual data, therefore put some digital information on top of it. So, when you're thinking about augmenting something on a page, you need to think about how well your camera's field of view is being able to take in that image, therefore overlay. And the aspect ratio, let's say that there's a long picture on the page, and you overlay a wide picture on top of it. It's going to look busy, so you have to try and keep the aspect ratio similar so it doesn't look busy with a digital layer and the real layer on top. And this technology hopefully it will work for us today, but it's still not perfect. There's still a lot of developments in it. So, for example, you have to pre-program all these markers into a computer